Overall, I feel 110% because I feel like better than, when I got hurt 8 months ago. And, yeah, just really excited to be out here with the guys again and be in the building.
What has this been like for you, just the whole mental process of going through the injury and then what you were able to take away and then coming out on the other side of it now?
The whole process has been, a unique one. I haven't had an injury like this that sat me down for so long, and I was very grateful for the opportunity that I had to really get a head start on the mental side of the game, our offense, opponents' defensive schemes, and individual aspects of each player. And, yeah, just really getting on the same page with KO has been awesome. Last season, seeing how he calls the games and everything like that, as well as, the intricate personality traits of the guys on the team and being able to, feed those that help strengthen the overall group and help strengthen them individually and, be there for them when, some things aren't going their way and you could address it from something you learn off the field and, help get them back to neutral baseline. Yeah.
JJ, did you put blinders on, or how did you focus when all the talk about Aaron Rodgers was going on and what's going to go on here? And you're here all winter doing all the workouts, doing everything you should do. How did you personally say how I'm going to handle this?
Obviously, respect Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. But all I was focusing on was just that day-to-day, task. What I was doing here, what I was doing at home to kind of make myself the best overall player I could be, best overall man. And, yeah, those blinders were on just like they've been on my entire career. So, great question.
You're going to be under tremendous pressure. I just wonder how you handle that, all that pressure that's coming in now. Moving and all that stuff.
Personally, I think the more pressure, the better for me because, that's something I thrive off of. And, they always say the cliche, pressure is a privilege, but that's something that you sign up for when you play in the National Football League, especially at the quarterback position. And, I feel like pressure, all it does is just bring out what's inside of you. And, I feel pretty good about what's inside of me. And, more pressure, the better, honestly.
You don't like sitting around, JJ, and obviously you didn't have a choice in this. Did you learn some new methods to being patient or meditation and things that you've worked on before? I mean, did you learn some things? Because, you'd rather be anywhere but sitting in a room by yourself doing nothing.
That's a great question, Mike. I feel like the biggest thing I picked up was just a gratitude journal. As simple as that. The little things that go, overlooked and underappreciated when you are healthy and you can walk or, just even the ability to see. And I feel like that's been a great anchor for me every single morning along with my meditation to kind of, put great perspective into my days and, jumpstart my day.
Do you think you're ready to start?
I know I'm ready to start. I appreciate that question, Kevin, because all the work I put in and just the confidence in my skills and abilities and just being able to do my job and simplify things to, the best of my ability every single day and, just take it one day at a time, one play at a time. And, I have a tremendous coaching staff, a tremendous group of guys around me that I can lean on and they can lean on me.
Along those lines, what do you think about the team that's built around you in terms of the offensive line? They did work on receivers, defense, all that.
It's amazing. I mean, they did a tremendous job, from the defensive side of the ball too, all the way up into offensive line, running backs we added, and just being able to, get the most out of the Minnesota Vikings. That's what I feel like, Kwesi and KO are doing, and I'm here for it.
JJ, Kevin talked a little bit last week about the throwing program that they had you on, and just the volume of throws that you had. What day, or if you can remember, was there a juncture where you felt like I'm all the way back and can handle the workload here?
I couldn't point out a day because I felt like I was back the second I started throwing. I was always itching to get out there and, get after it, and I kind of always felt better than, what I was supposed to feel. But, yeah, I can't really pick out a day. It just felt amazing every time I stepped out on the field.
How far back can you trace that kind of mentality of embracing the pressure and seeing it's good for you? Like, can you remember, like, high school youth, like, kind of realizing that was how you thrived?
I would say, I came across this quote, people with ADHD, they find calm in the chaos and chaos in the calm. And I've always felt like, ever since I was a kid, just any competitive environment I was in, I felt like I was at home. And, obviously playing at Michigan and, there's 110,000 and you're one of the most prominent, universities out there. I feel like that's where I feel most comfortable is when, the lights are the brightest, the stage is, the biggest stage out there. And, I know it's going to be a lot more of that to come.
JJ, why did you lose as much weight as you did during the rehab process? I think some people saw you on TV one of those weeks and were kind of surprised that they'd seen you before, that you looked a lot different.
Yeah, it was just the combination of, not moving at all, not working out. I'm somebody that needs to work out in order to put on weight. So, I'm back up to 215, exactly where I want to be. And, it's amazing how fast it, kind of peaks and valleys. But feel like I'm in a really comfortable spot and just kind of maintaining from here.
How low did you get?
I was pretty low, probably like, in the high 180s range. But, that's just kind of normal. Put it on like within 2.5 weeks once I started working out again. So, yeah.
JJ, what stood out most, I'm just like listening to Kevin call games, but what did you learn most from kind of hearing the audio and kind of up close and personal?
It's a great question, Alec. The thing I learned the most was just his mindset on, how he's setting up certain plays, how he's handling the situation. He always talks about, like, I'll manage the game, you manage the play. And just being able to really understand, his overall objective going into each drive and each game. And I'd say it was just, truly a gift and a blessing to be able to be on the sidelines for all those opportunities to really just intricately dissect what he was doing out there. And it was good in a stress-free environment, that's for sure.
JJ, I know that this isn't surprising to you, like you've obviously built relationships with all of your teammates, but we were talking with John Grenard earlier and he was just saying like, we're all standing 10 toes like beside JJ, like behind JJ. I guess just what does it mean to have like that much support throughout the locker room, from older vets and whatnot?
It means the world because that's like the number one thing you need to have to be on a successful team is everyone standing 10 toes for each other. And I could sit up here and say that every single guy in that room, every single person in this facility, I feel the same way. And, just especially coming from the defensive side, that means so much. And, I can't wait to go out there and show them and not just tell them.
JJ, how do you go about building chemistry with Justin Jefferson this offseason?
More reps, the better. On the field, off the field, as much time as I can to spend around him. But he's such a phenomenal talent and once-in-a-generation type talent that, it's more just you gotta not adapt your game to him, but you gotta understand like it's gonna take reps and reps and reps to feel his routes in and out of the break. But he's just so special. So I just can't wait to get to work with him every single day.
Have you guys been able to having those conversations yet before you've been able to get on the field?
A little bit here and there, but nothing as of right now in the building. So I'm excited to get him here.
You mentioned the gratitude journal. Like, where did you pick that up, and what was the single hardest part about the journey over the last 8 months?
I picked up the gratitude journal in college, actually, and I put it down for a couple years. And, I just brought it back up just because of, passing of mine, Greg Harden. He's just a tremendous human being, and, God rest his soul. But it was one of the things that I, felt like benefited me the most in my first injury in college. And, bringing that back up was something I was very grateful to do. And I'd say the most difficult thing was just like being a part of the team, but not like being out there with the guys and strapping them up and, going out to war every single week with them. That was the toughest part, but, hopefully we get to do that a lot more times in the future.
JJ, what was the
Trusting
biggest?
the coach is really important, and this, IMG and Jim Harbaugh and now KO. Can you explain in watching this last year how that can take the pressure off of you if you truly believe your coach is gonna have the right play dialed up, so you just have to worry about executing, what that means in terms of confidence and calm?
Yeah, I mean, when you have someone as world-class as KO is when calling football plays, it gives you all the confidence in the world because you just have to go out there and execute the simple, intricate things that you're required of in that play. And, he's going to do whatever he can to help the team and make sure that he puts out the best play call for that team. And, just knowing that he is who he is and seeing, the the work of his body of work on display for this past year, it just gives me all the confidence in the world because he's truly one of a kind when it comes to play calling.
How important is that meditation to you?
Extremely. Yeah, it's something that just keeps me neutral, somewhere where I could come from a response, not react type of state. And, it's something that I feel like just always is there for me whenever I need it, in times like this, in times on the field, in times, when things aren't going great at home, you could use it everywhere.
Do you do it daily?
Yes, sir.
Jay, do you think you need to win the job this spring or in training camp? Do you think you just need to remind them what you can do? Because obviously you had last summer as well in training camp. How will you sort of set your mind in that regard?
I got to win it with myself every single day. It's a competition with myself, and obviously it's just putting your best body of work, my best body of work out there. But it comes with looking myself in the mirror every night and did I get better? And if I keep this non-comparative aspect to it and just really focus on being the best versions of myself. That's really where I'm aiming, and that's where I'm trying to go.
When you got a veteran team coming off a 14-win season, how do you go about, winning the confidence? I mean, players have talked about having confidence already, but how do you go about making this kind of your team or asserting yourself in a veteran team that's had success and wants to keep going?
Just be me. Do everything I can to make sure that I'm the best version of myself come game day, and just put out that body of work that they're going to see on a day-to-day basis, and show up, be consistent, be dependable, be reliable, be a true pro, and the rest will take care of itself.
JJ, a lot of veterans, when they're injured, they say they gain perspective by watching the game. I know it's hard for you because coming in, you thought it was going to be your rookie year. Is there anything perspective-wise watching the game that you learned that you might not have if you were actually playing that has helped you, that you're grateful for?
I would say the biggest thing that I learned from not playing but watching is just the ebbs and flows of the game. You don't really get caught up in it when you're sitting on the sideline, and the emotional aspect of the game and how we could really take off and be our best versions of ourselves if we handle those ebbs and flows to the best of our ability. So those kind of like observations from the shadows were, really the most beneficial, especially on game day.
Couple more for JJ.
How much of the VR stuff did you do or have you wanted to do? I don't know at all, but if so, what does that entail?
So our VR stuff during the year was kind of like watching film, but you saw it through Sam's perspective. So, it helped out a lot at practice when I was able to kind of replay it, hear the play call, say it, and then watch it from his point of view. And, it was just more reps on reps, and mental reps are ultimately one of the greatest things to improve, especially when you're not able to do it physically. So, yeah, there's a lot of those.
What did you learn from Sam Darnold and just the way that he handled last year and just about being a winning quarterback in the NFL?
Just being a true pro, showing up, being the same guy every single day. It didn't matter if he had 4 touchdowns one week or, had a not so great game the other week. He showed up and he was the same guy every day, and that's the biggest thing I took from him.
JJ, what's one thing that you did this past year that you wouldn't have had time for, with all this unexpected downtime recovering?
There was a lot of, just kind of defensive coordinator reports, establishing a big, kind of plan of each player going into that week, and, making sure that I knew all the ins and outs and all the busy work on the front end when I had the time for it. So next year, I don't have to spend too much time on things that, aren't going to show up in the biggest way, and just really making sure I could be efficient next year with my, prepping and my game plan, studying and all that stuff.
JJ, Grant Udinski going to Jacksonville. When you got that news, how did you react to that?
Grant's a phenomenal coach. I wish him nothing but the best, and he